Good morning, guys. How are you?
Hey, so this is Mr. Parsons,
And Mr. Kosker?
and we're here to introduce you to what we're calling the close reading protocol for math word problems. So this is going to be used from Algebra 1 on up to Pre-Calc and beyond because it's going to help everyone.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by, if you can go on to the next slide, just kind of going through the math word problem reading protocol that was given to you. So you should have a copy of this in front of you. Your teacher should have given this to you already. So let's just dive right in. So have this out in front of you as we go through. Okay. First step, Mr. Parsons.
All right, you're going to read the entire problem once. So this is without even picking up your pencil yet. You're just going to read it and try to get an overview before you start marking anything up. Okay?
That's just to give you a general sense of the problem. You need to kind of know what you're dealing with. What sort of problem we're working with. Is it a problem about money? Is it a problem about Joe going to the store? Just a general sense of the problem.
Okay. Then after you get this general sense, you're going to reread and identify. You can identify by circling, highlighting, however you want, the key piece of information, what you're trying to figure out. Okay? In this, on the second read through, you know what you're looking for.
Okay, on that second, this is oftentimes what you've probably been taught before in a math class, in an algebra class, as you're working on a math problem, a word problem. A teacher will tell you, circle the important information, highlight the important information, underline it. That's the step we're talking about. So for us, that's the second step of the process.
Okay. Next step is to identify any words or phrases you don't know. Okay, if you don't know something, you gotta ask. So we have like 3 different things that you guys can do when you do that. Okay, you can ask your peers or the teacher, hey, what does this word mean? Okay, sometimes those words don't have anything to do with the problem, so you can get away with that. Or you can get a sense from just what the problem is asking. Okay, you can... then that's using the context clues. Okay, so what's around it, what is it asking, that sort of thing. And the third thing you can do is just go on Websters.com or Dictionary.com or your dictionary app on your computer and actually look it up and try to get the meaning from that.
And again, this is important as we work through word problems. If you are confronted with a word that you don't know, it's really hard to move on and to get an understanding of the problem. And students often get kind of like stopped up on that. So what we want you to do is take that time to look at those, see what they are, and find out the meaning of those before you move on through the problem.
Okay. The fourth step, okay, is to identify the important information about the word problem. Okay, so that is definitely any of the numbers that are relevant, that sort of thing.
Okay, and on this step, what we would ask you to do is you're going to go look back at the problem. Okay, you've underlined, highlighted, etc., the important stuff. Now, to identify that, you would write that down. So I might write that down on write the info down, okay? And you would organize that information on your worksheet, wherever you're working on. So, again, you've removed any useless information, such as maybe what the person's name was and how old they were, if that wasn't important.
And that's the key piece, is actually like crossing it out. There's a lot of problems that you can just cross out a lot of stuff, and it's a simple addition problem. So,
all right, cool. And next?
All right, then we're going to reread it. So we've crossed all this useless information out, and now we just have like statements that are left. They're not even full sentences. They're just like blah blah. All right. So we're going to reread the reduced math problem. Okay. Oftentimes when we reread that, we're going to then get a better understanding of what the question is asking us. Okay?
Let's see. Next step number 6. Classify the type of problem and identify the procedure you will use to solve the problem. Okay, this is a little tricky, but this is where you need to look at the problem and say, all right, what sorts of things are they asking me? Based on the information I've been given, based on the important information I've pulled out of the problem, really kind of what's going on here. Is this a problem that deals with equations, with inequalities, with percents or proportions? And you can use the information from above that you've kind of pulled out of the problem, the important stuff, to kind of determine what sort of problem it is. You might pull out what variables that you're dealing with, identify any particular formulas. It might say something in there about volume. That's going to make you think, all right, this is a volume problem. And you would jot that down. You'd say, okay, if I want to classify this, it might be a volume problem, for for example. So there's all sorts of different math problems that we're dealing with, and you need to get a sense of what the problem is, what type of problem it is, before you really go on to solving it.
So there's a key thing in here, and I'm going to give you a few hints on this, okay? And it's about the variables, okay? So if there's one variable, there's going to be one equation that you're going to need. If there's two variables in there, there's going to be two equations that you need. And it's those types of things that we're talking about, okay, is classifying the problem. What do I need? One equation, one variable, that sort of thing. And definitely what Mr. Kosker said about anytime you hear the words surface area, volume, area in general, we're going to be using a formula for that. Okay, so after we classify the problem, okay, now we're going to solve it. Okay, this is just all reading. The step 7 is the solving part. Okay, that's where we're actually going to do the math. So all of these steps are all about setting it up. That's the biggest thing.
Now, a lot of students have trouble with word problems, and we understand that, which is why we're creating this video, which is why we're focusing on this in all of our classes. But so often students come to us and say, I don't understand how to approach this problem. But what they really don't understand is how to do this step here, solving the problem. They don't quite get that part. And so they've read it maybe, but didn't really dig into it. So all these steps are steps that you can go through and work through one by one so when you get to this point where you need to solve it, you have a much better understanding of the problem. And then you can go ahead and solve the math part. And usually, you're working on those math skills in your math class anyway. And usually that tends not to be the issue, is the math aspect of it.
So the last step, and this is always the tricky step, okay, math word problems often ask you a question, and you actually have to rewrite the question to answer, okay? Word problems aren't just like x equals 7, okay? That 7, or that x, stands for how many miles they drove, how many cats there were in the house. So you have to say, there were 7 cats in the house, okay? And that is all about rewriting the question, okay?
So often, again, a student will solve a word problem, they'll get an answer, but it's not the answer that the problem was asking. So you might solve how many cats are in the house, but they're asking a different question. They want to know what were the total number of pets in the house or something like that. So it's really important to go back after you solve the problem, after you solve it, to go back and look at what the question was asking and rewrite that question in the form of an answer so that there were 17 animals in the house or whatever it was. That pretty much wraps up
that is the introduction.
Yep, a review of the close reading protocol. So again, I would keep this handy, use it. You can refer to this video as you need to when you're working on other word problems, and you can use other videos that we're going to produce that go into specific examples of word problems and work you through those. So thanks so much.
Thank you.